Have you ever stopped to wonder why Pride Month is celebrated in June? It's not just some random date picked out of a hat. It all goes back to one specific, sweltering night in New York City that completely sparked a revolution. So let's get into it and explore how that one night really did change everything.
So, yeah, this is our big question. And to answer it, we have to go back in time, way back, to a period when life for gay people was not only radically different, but frankly, it was dangerous.
All right, let's set the scene. We're heading back to the 1960s. During this time, for anyone in the LGBTQ+ community, just expressing who you were wasn't just socially frowned upon, it was actively criminalized.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. Until 1966, it was literally illegal for a bartender to serve a known gay person a drink. And even after that law was overturned, police just got creative, finding other ways to harass and arrest people. And the way they did it, well, it gets pretty wild. Police actually dug up this bizarre century-old law, a law originally meant to stop farmers from dressing up as Native Americans to avoid tax collectors, and they weaponized it against the gay community for wearing clothes that didn't conform to gender norms. So in this kind of oppressive world, you can see why a place like the Stonewall Inn was so important. It was a sanctuary. But here's the catch. Because legitimate businesses wouldn't cater to the gay community, organized crime saw an opportunity. The bar was actually owned by the mafia, who paid the police weekly bribes to, look the other way. Well, most of the time anyway. Which brings us to the night itself, the early morning hours of June 28th, 1969. New York police raided the Stonewall Inn. But for the people inside, this was nothing new. It was a grim but totally expected part of life. I mean, just think about how degrading this process was. Raids happened constantly. The cops would storm in, line everyone up, and if you appeared to be wearing clothing that didn't match your assigned gender, you were subjected to a physical verification by officers in the bathroom before they arrested you. This was the routine. But on this night, something was different. This is where it all pivots. The whole routine just gets shattered by one person's single act of defiance. This was the moment. So the police are arresting people like usual, and they handcuff a woman named Stormy Delavery. Now, she was an MC and a performer, and she was not going quietly. As the police dragged her out, a scuffle started. She even broke free for a second before 4 officers grabbed her, striking her on the head with a baton. And in that moment, while struggling with the police, she looked out at the silent, watching crowd and yelled this question: "Why don't you guys do something?" It was a direct challenge, a plea. It was like tossing a lit match into a room full of gasoline. And that was it, the tipping point. After an officer picked her up and literally threw her into the police wagon, that spark ignited. The mood of the crowd just snapped, shifting from passive observation to active, violent rage in a heartbeat. The bystanders were bystanders no more. The uprising had begun, and it was fueled by years and years of pent-up frustration and harassment. And this really captures the feeling of that night. This wasn't just about one arrest or one raid. It was about the culmination of years of violence, humiliation, and living in the shadows. The people at the Stonewall Inn had simply had enough. And so they fought back. The crowd threw whatever they could find at the police: bottles, bricks, you name it. Inside the bar, patrons resisted arrest. And then a chant started to rise from the crowd, something new and powerful. Gay rights, gay rights, gay rights. The protest was so intense, it spilled right over into the next night. So that chaotic 2-night riot didn't just end on the streets of New York. No way. It was the beginning of a global movement for rights and recognition. The legacy of that night is, honestly, it's staggering. Okay, get a load of this number. Before Stonewall, there were maybe 60 gay rights groups in the entire United States. Just 2 years later, there were nearly 2,500. It was a complete explosion of activism, a direct result of the defiance shown on that one night. To commemorate the events, on the 1-year anniversary in 1970, the very first Pride marches were held. They called it Christopher Street Liberation Day. And by the next year, cities all over the country and even the world had joined in. The New York March alone covered 51 blocks. And that brings us right back to our original question. That first march in June of 1970 started a tradition. So today, Pride celebrations around the globe are held every June to honor the courage of the people who finally said enough at the Stonewall Inn. And so we end with this final question. The story of Stonewall is this powerful reminder of how history can pivot on a single moment, on a single street corner, because of a single voice that dares to ask the crowd, "Why don't you guys do something?"